Afghan Americans worried about family living under Taliban regime. Foreign students struggle to get COVID-19 vaccination in United States. Hello viewers, welcome back to TV-T Timor in the Voice of America News. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Darceli Lefania. I will bring you the latest news, sharp and reliable from all around the world. The VOA and TV-T Timor cooperate together to deliver Voice of America News through the TV-T Timor channel. Well, let's begin the first news. As the Taliban tightens its grip of Afghanistan, the group is vowing to protect minority and women's rights. But many Afghans in the United States are concerned about the well-being of their family and friends and the future of their homeland.
Mohammad Daad Sarwari and his friends are nervously watching events unfold in Afghanistan.
It's not a fall of a regime, it's a fall of a generation. An educated generation of girls and boys who are educated, who built their dream, their hope for a better future of Afghanistan at the cost of blood and treasure of the United States and other allied countries in Afghanistan.
They are worried about their families and friends under Taliban rule.
Not only my family, but the whole country is facing the same problem. We can't bring our families here, that's one problem. And we can't go there, that's another problem.
Right now it's unknown. They were saying right now it's the Taliban as a one group, but it's not true. Right now there's like one of them is making one statement. Then the next day the other is making another statement, which is really dangerous.
Afghans whom VOA spoke with in America disagree with America's handling of the troop withdrawal. Joseph Azam co-founded Afghan Americans for Biden-Harris.
I think the buck stops with President Biden because he is in charge, right? And so that is something that cannot be argued. However, this process of withdrawal started under President Trump. The back and forth continued from President Bush onto President Obama.
Azam accuses former President of Afghanistan Ashraf Ghani and his administration for incompetence and corruption and says they are also to blame for the country's current state. Others say the focus now must be on how the Taliban will rule.
What they are saying right now, we are going to add minorities and respect to human rights. I don't believe it. We can see a sign of those that they already not following it, what they are saying.
Some Afghan Americans are holding out hope.
It appears that the Taliban gave protection to former high-ranking government personnel, even those who were governors, those who were military commanders or ministers.
Members of the Afghan community are urging the US and other nations to use leverage to ensure the Taliban respect human rights and honor other promises.
If the Taliban is really would like to govern on Afghanistan and they would like to rule over Afghanistan, they desperately need support, financial support, political support from the world, from other countries. And that support needs to be conditional, and that's the kind of pressure that they can utilize over Taliban right now and also their sympathizer.
We need to adhere to international human rights. This is a humanitarian crisis that's occurring in Afghanistan right now. And we also need to ensure that any government that does come out is inclusive of all of the Afghans, regardless of their creed, regardless of their ethnicity.
The Afghan American community is also calling on the White House to speed up evacuations of all special immigrant visa applicants and their families. Anshman Apte, VOA News, New York.
In 1 second before the machine begins to paint, software switches 100 images for a nail into 3D model long on robot manicure.
Renuka Upti, a software engineer, likes getting her nails done, but she doesn't like talking with her Silicon Valley colleagues about the time she spends on her beauty routine, she told VOA.
It would make me feel guilty and frivolous.
She hopes to make the process a little faster and more accessible with the new robot manicure business she co-founded. bringing the latest in computer vision, 3D mapping, and artificial intelligence to the salon.
We call it quick serve beauty. So the idea is express beauty routines for people on the go.
2 cameras take 100 images of a nail. The software stitches those images together into a 3D model. This happens in 1 second.
And then that gets shipped to our algorithms, and that's what we call the path plan, which actually figures out where to send the nozzle to actually dispense the polish.
Accuracy matters when painting nails. The robot comes within about 0.3 millimeters of the nail's edge. When regular nail polish bottles wouldn't work with the robot, the founders had to create their own polish cartridges. To succeed in beauty work, robots should be able to pull off some of what humans do naturally, such as improvising in the moment. Andra Kay, managing director of Silicon Valley Robotics, told VOA.
And it's the reliability and the ability to deal with variation that separates a viable, successful robotics company from an invention.
We will never be like the sit down, relax artistry of a nail salon. We will always be this quick in and out experience.
Upti is talking to hotels, high-end stores, and other venues about adding her robot manicure stations. Michelle Quinn, VOA News, San Francisco.
Thank you.
Some international students in the United States are struggling to get fully vaccinated against COVID-19 before returning to school this fall. Connor Smith for VOA.
While COVID-19 cases are rising again, international students returning to the U.S. are finding it difficult to get vaccinated. Jenny Zhang came from China to study at Columbia University in New York. She got the Sinopharm vaccine this spring in Beijing. The vaccine has been approved by the World Health Organization, or WHO, and her school. Now, back in the U.S., Zhang is considering a Pfizer or Moderna booster.
I was a bit worried about my vaccination because I did hear that, the Sinopharm one might not be as effective, especially against the Delta variant.
Before coming back to the States in May, Zhang spent 2 weeks quarantining in Dubai. Like China, the U.S. restricts incoming travelers.
I just stayed in the hotel for 2 weeks. It was not very enjoyable.
Yoon-ha Hun, a South Korean, came back to the U.S. early to get vaccinated and stay with her aunt in Northern Virginia. COVID-19 is on the rise in South Korea, and only 20% of the population is fully vaccinated. Hun attends Pratt Institute in New York, where students must either get vaccinated or quarantined for 2 weeks. Shots are available for students upon their return.
If they were requiring students to quarantine for 2 weeks, I feel like they should at least provide a space for them to quarantine, because a lot of international students don't have a place to stay in the States.
Syracuse University student Jessica Tran had trouble getting inoculated in her home country of Vietnam, where vaccinations didn't begin in earnest until July.
We have received vaccines from the UK and from China and from Japan, and unfortunately those are not the vaccines that are currently used in the US.
Like many U.S. colleges and universities, Syracuse says it is working with international students on a case-by-case basis.
Vaccinations are readily available in Syracuse, and we do not anticipate that international students will experience any difficulty in obtaining the vaccine once they arrive. Students who get vaccinated upon arrival must wear a mask and participate in weekly COVID testing until 2 weeks after their final vaccine dose.
And so right now I'm not going into the city as much. I think back at school, if I know that everyone is vaxxed, then I'd be a lot more comfortable.
Most students will return to university between now and mid-September. Connor Smith.
Greece has completed the construction of a border fence along its frontier with Turkey as the European fears grow over an influx of refugees from Afghanistan. Henry Richel for VOA.
The new border fence runs the 40-kilometre length of Greece's land frontier with Turkey. Its construction was fast-tracked in anticipation of an influx of refugees from Afghanistan heading to Europe.
We support the democratic rights and freedoms of people, but we cannot allow the instrumentalization of migrant flows that could possibly occur.
Greece says it will treat refugees in accordance with European Union policy and international law. The country was the main gateway in 2015 when 1.2 million refugees and migrants entered Europe. Many were Syrians fleeing the civil war. European leaders have warned in recent days of a renewed influx of refugees fleeing Afghanistan. But those fears are misguided, says migration analyst Helena Hahn.
Deterrence measures as well as containment measures by neighboring countries and potentially also the Taliban themselves, as they continue to reveal their true agenda, will actually prevent people from leaving the country. Iran, for instance, has repeatedly closed border crossings and has suggested that refugee camps be set up within the country, but not allowing people to cross the borders. Turkey has also built a wall on its border to Iran and has also increased the capacity of its so-called repatriation centers.
Despite the measures, many Afghans have managed to reach Turkey. These migrants are being held in the eastern city of Van.
I want to say to Europe, to other countries, to help us. We are Afghan. We are not fighting. We are not Talib. Just we want to have a good life.
Those caught are detained in centres like this. Turkey says it has halted repatriation flights to Afghanistan.
We ensure that they are resettled to countries such as in the European Union, America and Canada.
But it's not clear how many refugees those countries will accept. Visiting a reception hub for Afghan refugees close to Madrid on Sunday, EU officials urged member states and allies to take in more refugees. So far, the vast majority of those being evacuated are those who worked alongside Western forces in Afghanistan. Europe can do more, says analyst Hahn.
EU member states can voluntarily increase their resettlement pledges. This would, traditionally, in the past couple of years, Syrians have been a major focus, but we may see that these geographic priorities change.
Meanwhile, Poland has said it will build a fence along its border with Belarus, which has seen an influx of refugees, including Afghans, in recent weeks. Poland claims they are economic migrants and accuses Belarus of directing them toward the border. But human rights groups have accused Poland of violating the Geneva Convention by ignoring the migrants' claims for asylum. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
Turkish women gather outside the Afghan consulate in Istanbul to show their solidarity with Afghan women and to condemn the Taliban's treatment of women.
To show solidarity with Afghan women, Turkish women protesters placed a purple wreath in front of the consulate building with the words, "Women shall live in secularism." Several women's rights organizations spoke at the rally, claiming that the battle Afghan women face is similar to the struggle of Turkish women.
The difficulties experienced by women all over the world, the persecution of women, LGBTQ people, and people living in Afghanistan are not far from us and are of direct interest to us.
Speakers also chastised Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan for expressing an interest in meeting with the Taliban.
The Taliban may have remained the same as they were 20 years ago, but the women of Afghanistan are not like the way they were 20 years ago. Women are now making action calls here. They're trying to protest.
Protesters claim that women's resistance knows no border and that Turkish women support Afghan women in their fight for independence.
We have been watching the events in Afghanistan for days. We see what Afghan women go through and what they are forced to struggle with. Let's chant together in front of the Afghan consulate today to make women in Afghanistan hear that they will never walk alone.
Asla yalnız yürümeyeceksin. Asla yalnız yürümeyeceksin.
Taliban have said that women under their rule will have rights under Islamic Sharia laws and will be able to work and study within their framework. Many women, however, are frightened and distrustful of the group, worrying that their freedom would soon be eroded. For Omar Çolak in Istanbul, Turkey, Bejan Hamdard, VOA News.
A lack of water transportation and high demand for tickets to travel from Nicocli to Panama are some of the reasons why thousands of migrants are stranded at the town's port.
Thousands of migrants are stranded in Colombia's coastal town of Nicocli, a gateway north to Central America. A lack of water, transportation, and a high demand for tickets to travel from Nicocli to Panama are some of the reasons why thousands of migrants are stranded at the town's port. Their goal is to reach the United States.
I've been here for more than a week and a half.
Samin Riskat is among thousands of migrants from around the world arriving in Nicocli. From word of mouth, he heard that this was a safe place to come.
There is another place called Turbo, very dangerous because you can't stop walking. At any moment, criminals take away your backpack, your bags, everything.
Nicocli is across the Urabá Gulf from Panama, and almost overnight, the municipality has grown from 21,000 inhabitants to 32,000, according to the mayor's office. The Colombian government has announced it will set up a migration control point to speed up the processing of migrants.
We agreed to establish a Colombian migration point in Nicocli.
Migrants hope this will ease the bottleneck so they can move on and save on expenses in Nicocli.
One room costs about $12 to $15 a day. Imagine 22 days. That is why we are always in groups.
From Nicocli, migrants cross the Gulf to the Colombian town of Capurganá and then travel north through a roadless 97 kilometers stretch of Panama. It's a grueling trek in which migrants face hunger, injury, disease, poisonous snakes, and armed criminals. From Panama, the migrants must make their way through Central America and Mexico to reach the southern border of the United States. In Nicocli, meanwhile, local authorities worry that the rising number of migrants will trigger an outbreak of COVID-19 since few of their arrivals are vaccinated. For Jair Díaz in Nicocli, Colombia, Cristina Caicedo Smith, VOA News.
The Somali government reopened school this month despite a new wave of coronavirus infection. As Muhammad Sheikh now reports from Mogadishu, there are concerns about whether measures to prevent the virus from spreading in classroom and beyond will be sufficient.
Early morning in a Mogadishu school, and students arrive to prepare for the day's activities. None of the students are wearing masks as they mingle, even though the country is experiencing a new wave of COVID-19 infections. Khadija Adam is the principal responsible for the day-to-day running of the institution. She has a daunting task ahead, trying to keep her students safe while in school.
We keep reminding our students about good sanitation. The students understand that they must wash hands. We lobbied the Ministry of Education and they have supported us with hand-washing facilities. We normally instill in students that it is compulsory to sanitize their hands and wear masks, as this will enable schools to remain open.
In Somalia, uptake for COVID-19 vaccines remains low. The most vulnerable are the elderly, and there is fear school reopening might increase infections among the students who will ultimately expose their families. Abdifatah Muhyiddin is a student at the school and fears for his older relatives.
I am really worried about the coronavirus as it has returned and reached its peak. I'm concerned about the health of my family since school has reopened, and I might get infected in school and take the virus back to my family.
The prolonged closure of schools due to the pandemic had a negative impact on the lives of young Somalis. There was a significant increase in school dropouts, and this disrupted the social and economic well-being of families. Abdifatah Mahmoud is a trader in Mogadishu, and after a hard day's work, finds time in the evening to mentor his 2 teenage daughters, hoping they will catch up on lost time.
The long lockdown negatively impacted education. Some girls disappointed with education got married and started families. Boys who dropped out became either touts on passenger vehicles or migrated to other places. The length of the lockdown really affected education.
Muhammad Abi, Director General of Somalia's Ministry of Education, acknowledges the hardships.
One of the principal side effects of the coronavirus on education is that even the few students who showed resilience to continuing with education performed poorly during exams. Performance was below average, unlike any other time in the past. The quality of education went down, and some schools had to close down.
When it announced the reopening of schools, Somalia's Ministry of Education promised preventive measures were in place to ensure learning returns to normal. Students are required to wear face masks and maintain social distancing, among other measures. However, not all of these preventive measures are being followed, as seen in the Mogadishu school. Mohammed Sheikh Noor for VOA News, Mogadishu, Somalia.
Biden U.S. on track to complete evacuation, largest airlift in U.S. history, faces threat from Taliban Islamic State in Khorasan.
Evacuations at Kabul airport accelerating as the August 31st deadline for a complete U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan draws near. The White House saying the U.S. is on track to meet that crucial deadline.
Every day we're on the ground is another day we know that ISIS-K is seeking to target the airport and attack both U.S. and allied forces and innocent civilians.
That announcement coming after the Taliban said they would not negotiate with the U.S. to extend the deadline.
We convey again a message to the Americans to withdraw all their citizens in the given time frame. They have the facilities, airplanes are available, and they have control of the airport. They should evacuate all their forces and all their related contractors.
The White House clarifying that evacuations will need to stop before August 31st.
There would need to be time to wind down the presence.
The Pentagon saying it will need several days to remove U.S. personnel and equipment. The administration says there is still enough time to complete the mission of evacuating all Americans and eligible Afghans. In total, more than 70,000 individuals have already been evacuated, the largest such operation in U.S. history.
This tremendous display of teamwork and focus resulted in a passenger count of 21,600 individuals leaving Afghanistan in just 24 hours.
But U.S. lawmakers are already reviewing the reasons the Afghan government collapsed so quickly, leading to that chaotic evacuation.
There were any number of warnings that the Taliban might take over, and some that included the potential of a very rapid takeover. At the same time, though, I think it's also fair to say that no one predicted such a rapid collapse, a rapid and complete collapse of the Afghan government and forces.
Capitol Hill Republicans say White House officials should resign for failing to predict the collapse and plan for an evacuation.
This was Joe Biden's fault, Kamala Harris's fault, and all of his administration and those in charge. Their plan to withdraw was completely irresponsible. They had the information and they knew what they were going to do was going to create this crisis.
Both Democrats and Republicans remain doubtful of the White House claim that the U.S. can complete the evacuation in time and have called on President Biden to extend it. The White House said Thursday it has contingency plans in place in case the evacuations need to continue into September. Catherine Gibson, VOA News, Washington.
All female vegan rangers leading anti-poaching, the women are well armed.
These are recruits of the International Anti-Poaching Foundation on a drill near Manapuz National Park, about 300 kilometers north of Harare. Nyaradzo Auxilia Hoto has been part of this group known as Akashinga, the Brave Ones, since it started in 2017 to fight poaching here. Hoto says she does not fear poachers or wildlife.
I'm not even afraid. At first, yeah, I was a bit afraid. But now, because we have been taught on animal behavior and everything, and also because of the time that I've spent in the bush, now I've got experience. Whenever I encounter even a lion, I won't be scared.
The women are well armed, and if they encounter poachers, they detain them and turn them over to police for prosecution. Damien Menda, an Australian national and an Iraq war veteran, formed the Akashinga project. He says anti-poaching patrols will help preserve Africa's wildlife, which has been under steady attack from poachers for decades.
It was a trial in the beginning, a small trial on one reserve in northern Zimbabwe. We started with 16 women protecting 90,000 acres. We've now got 240 staff as part of this program. We've got 8 reserves that we patrol or have contracts for, and we're on target to have 1,000 staff by 2026.
The International Anti-Poaching Foundation oversees the rangers and pays them through donations collected online. Zimbabwe Parks and Wildlife Management Authority says efforts of such groups is helping to fight poaching in this wildlife-rich country.
And these people have been providing the much-needed resources in terms of patrol, in terms of anti-poaching law enforcement. Because of these activities and these partnerships, we are visible on the ground, and less of poaching incidences are recorded within our national parks.
With more and more rangers coming on board, Zimbabwe hopes to eliminate poaching and ensure the safety of the wildlife roaming the national parks. Columbus Mavungam for VOA News, Urungwe, Zimbabwe.
High water number in Kabul evacuation, about 90 aircraft evacuated 16,000 people from the airport in the past 24 hours.
Evacuations from Kabul airport have ramped up, but tens of thousands of people still need to get out.
We are pushing the limits to do everything we can to get every single evacuee out of Kabul.
Reports were confirmed by the Transportation Command Chief Monday that 3 babies have been born amid the evacuation chaos, a testament to the humanity and the desperation of the evacuation. Inside Kabul, a precarious security situation, a firefight and a stampede outside the airport, both deadly. Taliban checkpoints still daunting, and potential attacks from Islamic State looming.
Our commanders on the ground have taken every step they can to prepare for such an attack.
Some of the 5,800 U.S. forces are now conducting sporadic rescue operations to help Americans get to the airport. With the August 31st deadline just days away, a date the Taliban have called a red line. Are you going to ask for authorization of more troops?
And what I said is at 5,800, we're able to continue to secure the airfield, continue to increase safety there, and continue to do the operations that we already have.
There are no plans at this time to request or to authorize additional U.S. forces to this mission.
Veterans groups and non-governmental organizations are urging the president to get every American and at-risk Afghan out.
Despite the fact that what the president is going out and saying to the global, community, that what he's reporting simply isn't true, that the vast majority of the people who want to get to the airport can't.
The White House vowed Monday to continue evacuations for as long as it takes.
We will continue to get Afghans at risk out of the country even after U.S. military forces have left.
But just how those Afghans will be rescued beyond an American troop pullout remains to be seen. Carla Babb, VOA News, the Pentagon.
Well, viewers, this is all the news for today. And don't forget to prevent yourself from the virus by wearing a mask, Keep washing your hands and keep social distancing. For more information or any suggestion, please contact us on number 77452794. I'm Dorcelili Fania with the whole crew of TV Education Timor and VOA. We would like to say thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you all again next time. TV Education Timor is the future inspiration.